Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar and thank you very much for joining us. This is a webinar, digital webinar. This is not a news broadcast, despite what we actually kind of look like here. But glad for you to join us. I know everyone's busy at the moment. Everyone should be planning up for Q4 and things kind of ramping up in September as it usually does. So we do appreciate the time taken out today to join us. I'm Mike, I'm the founder of 43 Clicks North, and I'm your host for today. My job is essentially working with Lewis and the technical team to make sure everything goes off without a hitch today, and make sure Andy can do what Andy does best, which is give you guys lots of useful information and insights to be able to take forward. Before we get started, if everyone just make sure the mics are muted as well to make sure we've got like no interference. There's plenty of ways for you to interact throughout the webinar, which I'll talk about in a bit as well. So today we're going to be talking about unlocking more revenue without increasing ad spend. Something that I think most businesses would be grateful for at the moment. Costs are constantly increasing. Even just this year, average CPCs across Google Ads have increased by about 12%. And with other pressures on businesses like cost of goods, employment and things like that, getting more for less out of any marketing activity is definitely what's needed right at the moment, especially ahead of Q4 when everything gets a little bit more competitive and everyone's vying for that same bit of attention. So what we're hoping to get today is to try and understand how to make every click count. What Andy will cover is some of the top conversion blockers. So once you're getting people to the website, what's stopping them actually convert and buying your products. Show you some CRO tactics that are quite easy to implement that you can kind of get running with within a couple of hours. And we'll use some real world examples of how we've done that for clients in the past as well. So lots of stuff that you should be able to take away from you. Hopefully you'll find it really valuable. If you've not been on a Zoom webinar before, there is a chat box. Really encourage you guys to use this. It'd be great for you to introduce yourself, let us know why you're here and kind of what you're wanting to try and get out of it. The content that we produce is pretty much directed by the audience. We want to make sure we want to be producing stuff that is really useful to you. The more you engage and tell us about that, the more useful you're going to find it in the future as well. At the end of the session, we are going to run a Q&A as well. So there is a Q&A box as part of Zoom. Feel free to click on that, submit your questions. You can do that anonymously, or you can add your name to it as well. And we'll have a 10-minute point at the end of the session, which we'll go through all of those. If we are running short on time and there's plenty of questions, what we'll do is make sure we'll follow up with answers to all of those questions separately regardless. So if we don't get around to your question, we will come round to it in an email format off the back of it as well. The session has been recorded. Again, we'll send these over after the session. So Lewis and the team are going to be putting all that together over the next couple of days. So that should be in your inbox on Monday, Tuesday next week. So you'll be able to rewatch it. Make sure you capture all the information off the back of it as well, in case you miss any of it, just while we're doing it live today as well. So what I'll do now is I'll stop talking and I'll hand you over to our speaker. So Andy Lowdon is the strategy director at 43 Clicks North. He's been working in digital about 15 years. I'm pleased to say that I've worked with him for probably most of that period, despite a bit of time when he lived over in Australia, working on some more international accounts. But some of the big clients I've worked with are Pets at Home, JD Sports and Ravensburger, so plenty of retail experience in the big commerce space as well. So one thing I will say about Andy, and it's not often I'll give him credit or kudos in a public forum like this, but he is probably the best strategist I've ever worked with, and in his ability to kind of look at a business and identify what's working and what's not working, and pull out a single lever that can be kind of pulled to accelerate growth is second to none. I've seen him do it numerous occasions, so you guys are definitely in for a treat in here. So feel free to poke his brains, pop any questions that you want in there, and try and get as much out of today as possible. So without any more further ado, I'll hand over to Andy, who's going to talk about today's session, which is unlocking more revenue without increasing ad spend. So Andy, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. They are quite possibly the kindest words you've ever said about me, so I'll take them for today and we'll have business as usual once the webinar's finished. Anyhow, today's session, as Mike said, is all about unlocking revenue without increasing your ad spend. And that sounds like quite a big statement, but the truth is most sites do actually have the traffic that they need, but the problem is you're leaking revenue because you have what we call conversion friction. And my job today is to show you how we can plug those leaks and make sure that you can get more from every single click without having to spend more. that sounds good to everyone, let's get into it. And before we start talking about what these fixes are, let's start with intent. And first question I would have for anyone when we start talking about Q4, the main area we're going to talk about is Black Friday. It's the single biggest retail day of the year. And why are you doing it? And that's a question that I don't think a lot of brands actually know. Ultimately, they'll probably go, we want to make more sales. But why and who from? So are you actually looking to acquire new customers who you're then going to try and turn into repeat customers? Is it actually about increasing the lifetime value from your existing customers? Or do you actually want to reward your loyal customers and give them an offer, a benefit from being there throughout the time with you, rather than having to just have their new customers see the benefits from a nice sales promotion? Or it could be that you want to expand into new categories, launch it, and allow people to experience this new product that you've launched. But then you also have some brands where Q4 isn't the best time for them from a seasonality point of view. But they want to leverage the opportunities of the attention that you gather and the opportunity from there, and to use that to build their remarketing list that they can look to commercialise at a time which is better for them. Perfect example of this is sports supplements in January, when you hit the whole new year, new me. No one is really looking for health benefits as we're about to move into December. Every goal that you have is valid, but the key is your why will shape your what and your how. And Black Friday isn't equal for all brands, and everyone will tell you we scale from X to Y. You need to figure out why you're doing it and what you actually want to get out of it, rather than I just want to get as many sales as possible, because that's the way it becomes unprofitable. And Black Friday isn't a single day. Black Friday it's more like Black Month, let's be honest. So this graph here is from Google's search trends data, and what you see here is you do have that spike on Black Friday, but what happens is you get this build-up of interest from the back end of October, which gradually increases day by day, week by week, as we approach that key week just before Black Friday. What you see with this as well is you will see intent increase from consumers throughout that time period. A lot of people are doing their research earlier in the month as they try to figure out what's being sold, what do I want to buy, what's the offer, will I come back to that later on, will they come with a new offer, or has a brand not come out with an offer yet? But what you need to understand with this is you need to go earlier. The brands that have the best results go earlier. So if you're not talking about Black Friday now, I'd recommend you start doing it pretty quickly, because we are actually only about 6 to 8 weeks away from the build of this period around start of November. It used to be that you would see the increase in demand the week of Black Friday, then it would be about the 10th of November. Last year I saw adverts going around the 26th, 27th of October. So it's becoming earlier and earlier. And the later that you leave getting your offers, promotions, activity into market, the more reliance you're going to have on your existing customers and your own first party data to drive the performance that you're looking for from the period. And this is why we're here today. In Q4, ad costs grow around twice as fast as sales do. So if you are just going to keep putting more money into spend, as it gets more and more expensive, you're just going to be paying more for less. And for us, the real opportunity isn't just throwing more budget at traffic, but actually fixing beforehand how we can get more of that to convert and give people what they need to actually make the purchase decision that they want to get the product that will help them with what they need, and for us to get the sale from them. And that brings us to the core of this webinar. If your site has leaks, scaling spend is essentially pouring water into a leaky bucket. So the more you pay, it's not going to stick. So we need to fix those conversion leaks first, and then suddenly every ad click will be working harder for you, and that is how you will scale profitably. Every leak that we have, it's wasted spend. We need to plug those holes, because that is cheaper, way cheaper than us just pouring more and more cash in, especially as it gets more expensive. And the key part for us here, and this ultimately going back to what you want to get out of Black Friday, profit won't come from that first purchase alone. You'll be paying a premium for that new customer if that's what you want at that time. Where you will get the profit from is building revenue and retention from those people. So it's about getting more from them, from what you already have. And that's why, as conversion intent in Q4 is so strong, the conversion element of this is so powerful for you. And it's for me, it's making sure we find the right customers rather than just customers who are going to buy, take the 50% offer off from you and never come back. And here's the truth that most brands are overlooking. Your biggest competitor isn't another brand. It's not, my recommendation isn't you just go out, let's look at what other brands are doing, what offers have they got, what landing pages are they sending people to, what creative are they using. It's the biggest competitor for you is the friction on your own website. Because when shoppers are ready to spend, friction is the fastest way that you will lose them. If you put something in place that makes it a little bit harder for them or a little bit less willing to make that purchase, fix that, otherwise you're going to lose them. And once you fix it, you will overperform in Q4. So we are 6 to 7 weeks away from Q4 now. And that period of when the Q4 campaigns really ramp up, start in November, hitting the 9th, 10th of November of where it really picks up and the intent really starts to increase. So what we're not going to do today is talk about technical fixes that are going to require a lot of dev input, a lot of testing time, and probably will not be in place by the time the traffic and the intent is there. What we're going to focus on is common conversion blockers that people will overlook, but what they can actually do is relatively quickly and quite easily for us with a little bit of understanding about who your customers are, drive those performances in sales, revenue and profit essentially for you. How do I know that? The recommendations we're about to go through here, we've done it before. These for us, they're statistically proven. So let's look at 5 common conversion blockers that we see. First one we're going to talk about is the more information trap. So shoppers, when they come to your website, they're not looking to learn. In Q4, I want to buy. So if we then send them to a page where we flood them with really detailed specs and information that's quite complicated that they just don't understand, what you do is you are creating what we call decision paralysis. So instead of overwhelming them, let's actually show them outcomes, because customers on the whole, they don't want to know how the engine of your business and your product works, or they don't want to know the specific RAM that a computer might have. What they want to know is, will this get me what I want? And if it doesn't, then they're going to go and look elsewhere, because they now need to go and find out a bit more information about what you've told them and what that actually means to them in layman's terms. Second one is trust signals. So this is something where you have to have quite a fine balance. Everyone will talk about get your reviews on your site, get these badges, put your warranties on there. Can't disagree with that. But if you put too few of them on your site, shoppers start to doubt you. Is this website legitimate? Is it safe for me to put my bank details on it? Does the product even work? Too many, and you look desperate. Why are they plastering 40 different reviews on here, a load of badges that I don't actually even know what they are? So the key for you is placing the trust exactly where and when that doubt will peak for someone. So as they work through your content, as I get to a point where I might need to take an action, that's when you need to stick a review in there. That's where you need a trust point to then reiterate the doubt I might have specifically at that point. Because quiet confidence will be shouting trust us every single time. With that, you don't need to plaster 20 reviews on there. One perfectly placed review, one perfect testimonial will outperform all of them because it feels genuine. It can be seen as quite defensive. You just plaster a load of reviews on there. It's just you basically saying to someone, look at all these reviews, read them if you want. No one's going to go and read 20 reviews unless it's a very, very high price product. So what you find is one really quality review will outperform all of these ones that you have, whether you've got too many or you've got none. The other piece of advice here, don't make one up that hits every specific point of your product and every single benefit about how great it is. It is way too obvious to a consumer that it's not real and it's not genuine. Do that, you switch them off, you create the doubt again, and they may be going off searching, is brand X legitimate? Third, we have urgency. So with urgency and with Q4, yes, I know that there is a competition to grab attention, especially from an ad point of view. Now, you will need urgency in your adverts to win that click, to stop that scroll, to get someone to your website. But when you get them to your website, keeping that high level of emotional intensity, keeping that high level of stress and pressure and urgency, all that's going to do is tip a consumer over the edge. And if you put them into a heightened level of stress, all you're going to do there is kill off their buying confidence. Q4 is already overwhelming enough for people. You're constantly getting bombarded with 20%, 40%, buy one, get one free, all these different sales promotions. What you actually need to do when you get someone to your website is calm it down, reassure them, and maintain the confidence that they need to have to make that purchase. Because if you continue the high level of urgency, high level of stress that they have, you know what? You might pressure someone into buying. It's like no one wants to buy from a used car salesman. But what can happen there is, all you're going to do is you might get the initial purchase off them, but you haven't got reassurance. And all that does is give you buyer regret, which buyer regret, that turns into returns. You lose that revenue from that user. So we want to make sure that we're actually selling to people who are confident that our product meets their needs and they're going to use it and then come back and be a repeat customer. Fourth, we have the assumption addiction. So assumption addiction here is talking to people in your language of your business. Now, you know your jargon, you know your lingo. Customers don't, and they don't care for it. They want you to talk to them in their language. They don't come to you going, I want to find out the specific detailed specs of this product. I want them to talk to me in industry language. They actually are coming to you with feelings. Now, I have a problem. I want you to solve it. Now I need you to speak to me in my language to help me understand that I'm confident you know how to solve the problem I have, rather than telling me in a real technical level of detail, this is what the product does or has involved in it. Do that, you switch them off, they've gone elsewhere. And buying decisions, they're not rational. Users are emotional. Buying decisions are emotional first. Logic kicks in second. And the reason for that is that the emotional part of your brain reacts way quicker than logic can actually kick in. So purchases are completely irrational. People buy what they want, what they feel. So that is what drives your behaviour. And as a result of that, we use a framework which identifies the core emotions that a consumer has and allows us to understand which of those will influence your consumer in your market and get them to take the action that we want them to and give them the confidence with the purchase that they're buying. This changes by industry. So you might find joy and relief work really well in a health supplement, but relief doesn't work with buying a TV, for example. So you need to understand and test which ones work best for you and then reuse that information when you're talking to consumers. If your site leans into the wrong emotions, people will leave. If you focus on the right ones, they'll buy. It's pretty simple. They will then use logic, which kicks in afterwards. After emotion has already decided, I'm buying this product, they will use logic to justify the decision that they've made and go, yeah, this is a fair purchase I'm making. But if you haven't keyed into the right emotion, it doesn't matter, they won't get to the logic bit to be able to justify what they're doing. They will be justifying the fact that they've left your website. So how can we fix these issues? So we've looked at the blockers, let's move on to actually fixing them. The good news, what we're looking at here is we're looking at changes and modifications to your website. It's not going to take months. We're not asking you to redesign pages. I'm not saying go and rebuild your checkout process tomorrow. We don't want to touch that sort of stuff. These are small issues. They are time box tactics that you can implement this week. And what we know is these recommendations, they will positively influence revenue for brands. And you will be able to you could get all of these in place inside a week and be ready ahead of Q4 kicking on in November. So the first one I'm going to talk about is cognitive load sweep. So every extra decision that you actually force a shopper to make chips away at their focus. If you give me 5 different options of different filters on your page, it's more that I have to think about. And cognitive load, an increase in cognitive load, kills conversion. We see it all the time, and you'll be able to reference these. Too many product filters, too many options, too many steps in your checkout, different colours, different sizes, different price points. You ask me to make 5 decisions at once, all I want to do is make one decision of adding a specific product to the cart and then going to buy it. The fix for this is really, really simple. Go to your product page, go to your landing page, the page that you're sending traffic to, count how many decisions you are asking that consumer to make and halve it. Give them fewer, clearer choices that focus them on the one that actually matters, which is buying your product. Stop trying to upsell them all at the initial point of conversion. Do you know what? Let your customers breathe. Customers rarely voice their real fears, but these fears are what will kill your conversions. So we need to find the unspoken issues and tackle them before they surface. So imagine you're buying something for Black Friday. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of our customers. And so you're coming to a website, I don't want to know the exact spec. I've seen one of your adverts, you've sparked my interest around the offer that you've got. Let's just go and find a bit more information and go, do I want to buy it? Now, I don't want to know the exact spec. What do I want to know? I want to know, what if this sells out before I check out because it's a great offer? What if it doesn't arrive in time for Christmas? It's back in November, how long is it going to take to deliver it? And I want to buy this for my son. Will it arrive? So what we do there is we go and list every potential fear, every objection that a consumer might have to buying, and we put it up front of them. On that product page, on your landing page, in your copy, let's make sure we are answering every potential fear that your prospective consumer has. You will be amazed when you look at heat maps and click maps on FAQ sections, the level of activity that you see on an FAQ section, which might be right down at the bottom of your product page, because it's the information that is really, really important to people deciding whether they're going to buy your product or something from a competitor today. One of the biggest killers of conversion, it's when the emotional state of your ad doesn't match the landing page. One thing we do know is that emotion really drives a higher level of click-through rate from consumers. Now, so you imagine if you click on an advert which is real urgency focused, it's a Black Friday ad for, let's say it's for jeans, and it's 50% off today only. Real high level of urgency. God, if I want these jeans, I've got to buy them today, otherwise I'm going to have to pay twice as much. So I click on the ad, I've got a heightened level of emotion, I'm feeling some stress about whether I want to make this purchase. So you could land them on a page which continues that, buy now, or you could land them on a page which has no information about that and it's just a typical product page. If you just land them on a product page, you've got a mismatch in your content there because there's none of that messaging has followed through. I'm like, is this even on sale? Is this 50% off? Do I have to do it today? But if you do it when there's a real high level of stress, you could switch them off and go, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm not ready to buy, I'll just go elsewhere. What we can do instead, maintain that sale ends tonight message, but then we just continue the messaging. Your perfect fit is still in stock. What that does is that keeps momentum with that purchase. So you're not creating any panic, you're still keeping a level of urgency in there, but I'm giving some confidence back to the consumer that, you know what, it's still there, you can buy it, we have it. So the trick there is we're mapping the ad intent to the landing page and the mood of it without building additional unnecessary stress for the consumer. And you want to inject some personality into your copy. People they're there to find out information, and people want to buy from people they like, that they want to see themselves within your product, within your brand. People will buy from people. So let's just inject some personality into your copy, because what that will do is that will build trust far quicker than any form of formality, me talking directly to you line by line about the pros and cons of my product. So instead of saying premium footwear designed for optimal performance, pretty boring, let's say trainers that keep up with you, not the other way around. So you're basically showing me there that what I can go on to achieve with this. It doesn't sound obvious, but with this, all you're doing there is giving a level of honesty which people can then attach themselves to. And let's look at how we emotionalize your content. So customers will rarely tell you the reason for what they're saying. They will give you the answer they believe that you want to hear. So they're not buying a laptop for the specs, they're buying it for peace of mind, they're buying it to be able to do their schoolwork, browse on a computer at home, have access to wider information. What we need to do here is we need to ask and find out what emotional job is this product doing and why are they buying it? Not what's the functional job of the product or even what's the pain point it's solving. You will find people will tell you about the pain point, but there is a much deeper emotional reason driving that purchase that pain point is just a small part of. So when you're writing headlines to address that emotional piece, we want to make sure that we're tapping into the emotions that really move people, that really will get them to take the action, because you get the emotion right, logic and the reassurance will follow. So I hear you on this, you'll go, yeah, that's all fine, it makes fair bit of sense this, but does it really work? And the good news on this is categorically yes, and I can stand here in front of you saying I know this works because I've done this before and I've seen the results of this. So this isn't just marketing theory, this is all grounded in proven statistical data. And so I'll talk through a little bit now in terms of a case of how we applied this. And we worked with a retailer called Stone Refurb. They sell refurbished laptops. So business buys a lot of new laptops and they've got their old ones. They send them off to Stone Refurb, they refurbish them, sell them to people at a much cheaper price point. So we actually sat down with Stone Refurb pretty much about this time last year, where we talked about what they needed to do in planning for Black Friday. So with that, we had the exact same conversation, talked about the same stuff I've been talking about today, where it was, you haven't got long to plan for Black Friday because we're going to run your campaigns from the start of November. Now, your website doesn't convert at the level that we need to because we will need to spend way more to hit your targets because the conversion isn't there. Now we have a 6 week period to do some real rapid fire testing because we could see and we identified key specific conversion blockers, which essentially are the 5 that I've talked through today. There was too much detail on product pages, it would talk about specific specs, there was no value for the consumer in terms of the trade-off there. There was no reassurance with a refurbished product that it was any good, and people would search, is Stone Refurb legitimate? What was the warranty? Is the product a quality product? They would run Black Friday messaging, which was very much Black Friday sale, buy now, basically lose out. The jargon confused the people who weren't experts. And so it didn't give confidence to the consumer to make the purchase that we wanted them to do. So we looked at that and we took each of those blockers and we flipped them into confidence drivers. So pricing and savings were made more obvious, prices were increased in size on the site, savings were added on so you could see quite easily, or save £50, save £100 on this product, put it in a different colour to drive the attention from that. Trust signals were moved above the fold, best sellers were shown to people, promotions were launched earlier in November, so rather than just go for the Black Friday weekend period, we went much earlier because we were looking to acquire new customers, because you don't really buy a new laptop quite frequently, so the lifetime value isn't there for them. We needed profitable revenue from that first purchase. So what we did there was we went, in terms of removing the stress around Black Friday, it actually works twofold. It worked in terms of reducing the stress for a consumer, that they could see our offers early and do their research, because buying a laptop, you're unlikely to see one and buy it straight away. There's a lot of research because it's a high value product. But it also reduced the stress for them, because what this actually allowed us to do was maximize the value of people who are researching earlier and get sales in early. So then actually you're chipping away at your revenue targets, and this allows us to achieve the revenue target for the Black Friday period, before the Black Friday week, if you like. What we also did with this was we removed the jargon around specific specs, the RAM, the gig, all that sort of stuff, to then put it in plain language what that actually mean for people. So this level of gig, this is actually what that means you can do on it. Can I game on it? Well, yes, you can game on this computer because it does X, Y, Z. Specs were then reframed around reliability, and ultimately we helped use that to build the confidence of the purchaser. And here's the result of it. Conversion rate jumped up 81%. Revenue per session went up 101%. And overall revenue up 35% year on. This is all year-on-year data as well. All of this was resolved by fixing that friction. We weren't buying extra traffic, we were maximising the value of the traffic, and that's the power of this approach. So what I'll do here is I'll just end with a little simple checklist for you. So before peak, what I want you to do is ask yourself these questions. Is your pricing obvious? Is trust up front? Are you reducing pressure, or are you adding to the pressure on the consumer to make a decision? Is your copy clear around the offers that you've got, the value of the product that you've got, and the benefits that it's going to give to someone, and the pain points that you can resolve? Do you reassure people around the emotions that are the key drivers for that consumer? And one as an added bonus, go on mobile. People are going to be distracted, especially that the peak period on the Black Friday day is between 6 and 9 p.m. It's that sofa surfing time. So people are going to be on their phones, they're distracted by all these ads, and I've probably got 5 or 6 purchases in mind that I want to make tonight, and I've got to make them quickly. Is the mobile browsing and purchasing experience on your website effortless? If you can't answer yes to all of these, you are leaking sales. Fix these, and every ad will work harder for you. So what I want to kind of say here, just to end on this point, is Q4 will not be won by outspending your competitors. It's won by removing that friction, building that confidence, and making the most of the traffic that you already have. So take this checklist, take these key recommendations that we know work, apply them. They're very easy to apply. You could quite easily get them all done inside a week. Get them onto your site, test them if you've got time to do that, and what you will find is you move from trying to sell and trying to buy more rushed, overwhelmed shoppers, but you'll turn them very quickly into confident buyers who will stick with your brand. So yeah, what I'll do now is I will pass you back to Mike, he will run through any questions that we've got.
Brilliant. No, thanks very much, Andy. Really enjoyed that. Hope everyone else did as well. We'll move on to the Q&A section now. So they've been filling up as we've gone through the talk as well. What I'll do is I'll start off with one of my own here, which I think is always quite a big question, is what's the technical setup that you need when implementing some of these changes? I know a lot of people get worried about hefty dev charges and things like that.
Yeah, it's specifically geared to not incur those hefty charges. What we're looking at is quick, easy to implement tests where we deliberately are staying away from big dev requirements because everyone is trying to get changes in before a code freeze at this time of year. If you want to, you can get a tool like VWO to do your A/B testing, split your traffic 50% each way, and find out statistically with knowledge which is a winner for you. But you can only do that if you have enough traffic to begin with.
Cool. All right, brilliant. Now moving on to some of the attendees' questions then. So the first one I've got here, it's anonymous, but the question I'd love to know is how do you balance emotional design with data-driven optimization? I know there's been quite a little bit of chat in the chat about personality and branding and things like that. So can you shed some light on that? Yeah,
it's a very, very good question. And I think with this, you've got to look at data will help point you in a direction. So what I would do there is I would look to start looking at, okay, where am I sending my traffic to, and which are the key pages for me to optimize. But then with that, it'll point in the direction, but it'll tell you what the issue is or where the issue is. It won't tell you why. And that's where the emotional design will come in here, because the emotional element of this is someone telling you why they're making a purchase. So if we can understand the key drivers behind why somebody's buying and what they were feeling at the time, you put that back across to a wider market, it will resonate with more of them. And so it's key for me here is that when you're talking to people and they feel seen from you.
Brilliant. No, I think the emotional element is quite important. I remember one bit of testing several years ago for dentistry. And if you look at most dentist websites, you'll see a nice picture of a reception and it looks pretty crap, let's be honest. But this test, all the images on the homepage got changed to pictures of kids or adults holding the face in pain, because you know, if you're looking for a dentist, you've generally got a problem. And just as a result of it, and just having that emotional connection, conversion rate kind of doubled overnight. So I think that there's some great points there. The next one we've got is about testing in Q4. Is that a good time to be running tests, or should it all be done before peak starts?
In an ideal world, you start testing and prepping for Black Friday on the 1st of January. But in terms of now, you've got a perfect opportunity and you should always be testing to find out and learn. Then as soon as whenever I get to November, stop, because you're in the season. You don't want to be running tests that could have a detrimental impact. Whatever baseline you have at the end of October, that's where you are.
Cool, brilliant. And when you uncover multiple conversion blockers, how do you decide which to fix first, and which is going to have the fastest revenue impact?
Quite simple. Look at the page. Look at the pages where you are spending most money. So we are looking with this approach to get more for less, get more revenue out of the ad spend that you have or the marketing spend that you have. So if, for example, let's say I'm spending majority of my budget on PPC, I'm going to go to Google Ads. From there, I will then look at which landing page is getting the majority of traffic, or which campaign is getting the most spend, and where am I then sending people to? Because that then is immediately my highest point of leverage. So if I've got 60% of my overall budget going to one landing page, fix that one, because that will then maximize the value of 60% of my marketing spend.
Brilliant. Okay, got one from Will here. So would you tailor the level of detail on product pages by audience? You know, like with your PC example, a hardcore gaming nerd might want the detailed specs down to the exact model of graphics card and RAM, whereas parents buying a PC for their kid might just need the benefits outcome style copy.
So this is the value of landing pages. So with landing pages, you can split your traffic off. So there are ways you could do that. So let's say with a meta, the creative guides your targeting. So if the creative is targeted at, say, a grandparent, okay, let's make sure that that landing page relates specifically to what pain points and pressures they're feeling, which is, I want to get my grandchild the perfect Christmas present. That's a different one to if I'm buying for myself. If it's me, but if it's a campaign targeted at someone where you think they're buying for themselves, the copy completely changes there. But then you also have your catch-all of your core product page, which is there to give the sort of generic overall summary that anyone can go to, because they will often go to that as the final purchase point.
Thank you. Now one from Marisa. So how early should we start planting our brand in the customer's mind? Is there such a thing as too early ahead of the gifting season?
No. It's people buy from brands. So when you're looking at this for me, it's people remember brands as well. So if you show me an advert and I can't remember who it's from, it's wasted budget at the end of the day. And they're going back out into the market, and you've got to find that person again to build that connection. So I would always make sure you are building that brand connection, because there's a very good chance that they see your advert for the first time, but come back and buy via a brand search or branded channel, whether that's direct later on.
Is that you giving us permission to run Christmas ads in August?
Knock yourself out.
And then one from Dave here. So should I be tracking different conversion metrics during peak sales periods versus normal months?
Yeah, you want to be looking at your metrics you track should be related to your objectives. Are your objectives different to what they are for the rest of the year? Or are you hyper-focused specifically on that purchase piece now, It may be you're trying to find a different audience. Make sure your objectives and your metrics that you track are relevant for your objective at that time of year.
Cool. And then the next one is it hard to take a step back? It is hard to take a step back. A lot of the things, I'm going to try and reread this one again. It's hard to take a step back. A lot of the things on the checklist. What's the advice for helping with that?
You need to set some time away from the core day-to-day to look into this stuff. What we've looked at here is stuff and recommendations that aren't too highly intensive for you to implement. Safeguard a couple of hours to yourself to do this. Give yourself a clear space. Get away from people if needs to, but dedicate that time to do this. Otherwise, you will just continue with what you've got, and you won't be removing those friction points for the consumer.
Cool, brilliant. Next one. So we are probably got about 3 or 4 more questions left. So just a heads up on time there. So how important is the variety of messaging? Do we need to be consistent, or should we be testing lots of perspectives during the key season?
Ideally, you test them beforehand, so test them now. What you'll do, put different offers into market, find out what lands with people, and then you take those winners and those learnings forward into the high conversion intent period and you will have a much higher level of confidence in terms of driving the results that you're after.
Yeah, I think I'll add a little bit on that one, because what we see a lot of the time with clients is there's a lot of testing that goes within kind of Google Ads, and you can add lots of headlines and lots of descriptions within there, and there is lots of A/B testing going on in terms of that messaging, but it's never really understood why those the winners are the winners in terms of the emotional connection that it's making, or the resonation of kind of the point within that messaging. Instead, it's just this had a better click-through rate, let's move forward with that. I think if you can do that analysis piece as part of that, I think you can take that forward into the peak season.
Yeah, and one other bit just to add onto that as well is every year the best performing ads we see aren't ones that basically say Black Friday. The best performing ads are your winners and the ones that have been in your account and have been proven and tested with data beforehand. Often they don't have an offer in there. They don't mention the key period. It's ads that are emotionally focused on the benefits that they will give to a consumer.
Cool. And has anything surprised you most from the tests and findings from previous years?
For me, it's the level of intensity of the emotion. So that is great at driving the click through to your website, but there's a lot of people talk about ad congruence, which essentially is maintaining what you see in the advert onto your landing page. But it's that whole piece for me, when you try to maintain it at the same level, that's where you see that fall off. So it's how you balance that back with actually calming that consumer down, reassuring them, and giving them the information they need to go through and make a measured purchase.
Cool. I'll share probably some of my biggest surprises, and they've mainly come from what you'd think would be no-brainers. Fair few years ago, there was a good test about implementing a new menu style, which was, from a design perspective, the in thing. There was lots of brands doing it. We implemented it for this client, and they weren't too keen on it. They didn't quite like the look and the style of it, so we tested it, and it did not work. You know, we was being able to track the revenue, and we saw that kind of impact it quite significantly within the first 2 weeks. So we kind of canned it and kind of stuck with what we went with. And this was kind of against a lot kind of the best practices at the time as well. So it was a great reminder that even when you think it's right, testing it will give you the data to be able to back it up. So they've always been my biggest learnings, I think. Cool. So the next one is from Kat, so thanks for joining us, Kat. The emotional intelligence element is so important. How do you recommend rating the highest core pain? It can be challenging, specifically for service-based B2B companies, to hone in on the most crucial emotions, as there can be several blended in at once.
Yes, so I've developed an emotional audit, where what I do is it starts from ad creative, it builds in the reviews, to allow me to basically put a emotional driver against each issue and then group them essentially. So then I use that to then take it into a data piece, and because that's the real difficult piece of emotion, for it to say quantitatively, this is where the issues lie, or this is what the key emotions are for us, and then from there pick the top 3 and test them, but then not disregard the rest of them. So we have a framework of 8 of them, and then it allows me to then look at that and go, I want to test these 3 first, bring multiple angles in on them, but then also then test the other ones as we go along, to then understand, do they actually, which have the biggest impact on a user. I hope that answers the question.
Brilliant. I'll finish it off just with one last question from me. So it is the hot topic of AI at the moment. So how can you use AI to improve conversion rates on the website? Can you do anything directly, or is it just an analysis piece?
For me, AI plays a role. For me, AI is about speed. So AI can analyse data way faster and to a much deeper level than I ever can, and than a human can. So I use it to help me identify those leaks quicker. What it can't do, and the bit it really struggles with, is the emotional part, because it's a robot, let's say. So it can't understand feelings. It can tell you the what, it can't tell you the why. So the role of AI for me is to point me in the right direction, and then my role then is to apply human behaviour, human learnings, emotion over the top of that to then go, okay, I know where to go, but now the bit I can put in here is the why. A great way that you can look at this is looking at basically taking, we'll go with ChatGPT today, take all of your users' reviews, stick them in a spreadsheet, upload that to GPT, and from there ask it to identify for me the core or the most popular objections, pain points, but also positive reasons for why people are buying. Can do that in a minute or less. I can then take that away without me having to do a day's analysis of individual reviews and copy and pasting from there to then understand it. That points me to the core emotions that I want to test. My job then is to look at the messaging around that hit those emotions.
Cool, brilliant. No, thank you very much for that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you very much, Andy. I hope everyone else did as well. Thank you again for joining us today. Just a reminder, we will send out this recording early next week, and all questions we'll kind of give a bit of a text answer to as well, so we can come back to that. So if there was any more information you wanted on that, that'll come your way. If you have any feedback, let us know. You know, we do want to know what you guys want to see, what information you want to know about, and how we can help in the future. We will be running webinars more in the future as well, so we'll keep you updated with that. And finally, everyone will get a conversion audit checklist to be able to utilise and apply to your own website ahead of Q4. So there'll be plenty of actionable insights that you can take away from that as well. So again, thank you very much. Thank you to Andy and everyone for giving up the time as well again. So yeah, have a great day. Bye.
Bye.